Welcome to You Know Me, a podcast for Brunswick and the Golden Isles. I'm Buddha.
This is the Beard.
Beard, we're actually here on a weekday.
Yes, it is Wednesday.
It's a special day because we have someone who's been on before, and we're excited to have him back.
Yeah, one of our early guests.
One of the early guests. It really kind of helped cement us, I think. People really enjoyed the first podcast.
Cool. Wow.
And so we're back here with Justin, and we're going to talk more about Gage because it has exploded basically a little bit.
That's a strong word. Let's say it's getting ready to explode.
All right, it's primed.
It's primed, ready to go.
Yeah, we got the proper backing now.
Nice.
That's great. So let's just rewind just a little bit and kind of go back, and for people who don't know what Gage is and how it works, real quick.
Yeah. So Gage is the first community for the frontline workforce, and it's offering employees and end users a transferable employment record, first of its kind. Essentially, it's LinkedIn for the younger generation, shift in hourly work.
And you can kind of track your progress. It's something you can take with you, right?
Yeah, it's funny. The journey of Gage has been interesting. The product itself hasn't changed. The messaging certainly has. Like in the beginning, we were a managerial tool with a scoring component, and we still have all of those tools. And we really emphasized a lot. We probably focused too much on the scoring element of it, and really what we kept just asking ourselves, and that's one of the most difficult things when you start a product like this, is like, what the hell are you, right?
Yeah. Always.
And just being able to simply identify yourself as what you are. And it's funny, everybody kept telling us what we are, and we didn't tell them, like, oh, it's like LinkedIn for kids, or not kids, but just younger generation, and definitely frontline workforce.
Right.
Because LinkedIn is certainly a monopoly, and it is, frankly, younger generation just doesn't use it.
Right.
And the people that do use it is, college graduates, executives, entrepreneurs. But it's not for the person that serves you at Chick-fil-A, and it's not for the person that works on your car, and basically 60% of the economy, which is shift in hourly work.
Right. And it's tough to maintain. I have a LinkedIn. I haven't updated it in probably 3 years because it's just not great to sit down and type all that stuff out.
Well, it's I'm not a fan of LinkedIn at all. I think it's spammy. It's got a lot of issues. I just don't. But I mean, you cannot argue with its success. Even monetarily, I'm not even going to quote you the valuation right now. But it's owned by Microsoft, I believe, unless if that's changed. But it's a powerhouse. Because I had a great conversation with an investor the other day. Hopefully soon to be our investor, one of our investors, but. He was like, because what Gage does is it provides credentials to the otherwise non-credentialed, or people that would not have credentials.
Right.
And when you add credentials to anyone, you increase their worth and their value to anyone in the workforce. Period. That's the goal, right? That's the whole definition of having a credential. And so this investor, in fact, the Techstars program, which we'll talk about, that we are cohorts of or graduated from, it was economic mobility, people making more money, doing the work that they do. And we have proven with Gage that people do make more money with Gage, and then they get more job opportunities with Gage just by the nature of having credentials. And the investor, I guess, was a little confused about this in the beginning, and this is a big VC group, right? Matter of fact, if I were to say their name, you'd recognize them. But they said that, like, that I don't get it. Like, why, if they're on this platform, why do they make more money? Whatever, Right. And I was like, you're a big VC group. Could you imagine hiring somebody that's not on LinkedIn right now? Like, when you hire somebody, first thing you do is check their LinkedIn, right? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And depending on the industry, that's a standard. And if somebody does not have a LinkedIn profile, it's a red flag. And it's not to say that you wouldn't hire somebody without a LinkedIn profile, maybe, depending on the industry. But we know it's a red flag. But the person that has, so if you have two candidates in front of you, one has a LinkedIn profile, one that doesn't, which one's more valuable to you? And which one would you pay more for? What LinkedIn did right on that side of it is that it added some form of validity, like some form of like proving who you are. You're not shady, or you're not whatever, and you're connected, and it really does. I mean, it has a monopoly on that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's not for 60% of the workforce, and we're trying to fill that void.
Right. So anything has changed with the app? You said you went from scoring to something different now? Or?
Well, it's not. We have the score. The score is great, and we love it, and our users love it. So that's not going anywhere. But we were never the score.
Right.
We have a score, and that's not to say the same thing as we're not the score. What we are is a community, and essentially to the employee, we're an employment record, a transferable employment record. But it starts with a community, because in order for this to work, it has to work within a community. And so that's when we started realizing, wow, we're linked in just for, shift and hourly work or frontline workforce. And so we have the score, we have a full, so we'll just kind of back up. So we went through a prototype phase, which is where we first met.
Yes.
I think that's where we launched a prototype, and we had some incredibly great traction from it, at least at that stage. It was definitely an MVP, or a minimal viable product, which is that's just kind of the tech phrase. But it's literally the first offering, and you say, here's what I'm going to spend the minimal amount of money to create a product, that minimally viable product that somebody will pay for or somebody will use, and let's find out what happens. And that's exactly what we did. And some of the stuff that we created worked really well. Some of it didn't work really well, and we learned from it. And so once we learned all of those lessons with the prototype, we got to work, and we said, okay, that was fun. We did that well. We did that poorly, and let's just get better. And then, of course, raise the money to do all of it, because the product, the product that we built was not a scalable version of the product. It was at best a regional or local version of the product. Mm-hmm. For us to get the type of scale that we need, it needed to be a much more robust system. So we went to work, and we started calling investors and VCs and saying, this is what we got. These are our metrics. And we got the attention of some really good investors. Of course, our lead investor, Eagle Venture Fund, they're out of Dallas, Texas, and met them at an pitch competition. And then, a couple other angels later, and then Techstars is the biggest news recently. So we got, Techstars reached out to us middle of last year, went through a laborious application process, and got accepted. And the program we got accepted in, every one of their programs has a objective. Like, are you trying to solve global warming? Are you trying to solve hunger or whatever?
Right.
This one was economic mobility, like, helping people, from living paycheck to paycheck. And we got accepted, and we won. And that was an incredible honor, because it's the statistics of getting accepted into that prestigious program is really high. So that was validating. The program was in New York. I spent 3 months there. In the program, got us better, got us sharper, helped us with the messaging, some of the messaging you just heard, helped us with investors and investor introductions. I think we have, last time I checked, we have 150 investors or VCs following us or watching our investor newsletter that goes out weekly.
Nice. Wow.
And we raised just shy of $1 million within the program or to date, and so we have the funding that we needed to build the scalable version of the product. And that version, stop me at any time, guys.
No. This is great.
Well, we learned a few different things from the prototype. Number one was the onboarding process was a nightmare with the prototype. That was standard. That was always going to happen. We had to get CSV files from the employers. We had to, the employer initiated everything. The employee just went along with it. It wasn't really, even though we were for them, they didn't really feel like we were for them because the employer had to do everything. And so the onboarding process, so now the Gen 2 is literally as simple as signing up for social media. Everybody self-onboards, they fill out their own profile. They can get started in seconds, not weeks. That was the first improvement. The second one was messaging. We did not have a messaging system embedded into the platform, and that was paramount. You can't have a community or a workspace without communication, and so we needed messaging. So like a robust or a simplified version of Slack or something within the system. The other one was the profile, like just a more robust profile, more information. So now you're going to be able to upload your transcripts, your education, your training, your certifications, your diploma. You're going to be able to get more peer endorsements, peer-to-peer endorsements, managerial endorsements. All of it just becomes just a much more robust profile to show who you are within the workforce. And the businesses too. The businesses wanted a profile similar to like Yelp or something, where they could build out their profile to make themselves look good as an employer.
Right.
Like their pictures, and stuff like that. So all of that, more robust profiling, and then the final one was just the general sense of community. It was resounding, like, we heard you. All right, just we heard you. Is that they wanted a community. They wanted this to be LinkedIn had a baby with TikTok and Instagram. Okay, and they wanted that social media experience, and that's what they were kind of expecting when they heard about the product. And they didn't get that, and so we're building that out. So when you see sneak peeks of Gen 2, it's going to look very familiar in the language of social media.
Okay.
Nice. So now if an employee builds their profile, on the back end, how do you verify their information?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. The employee can fill out anything they want, but just like LinkedIn.
Yeah.
The validation comes from endorsements, other users connecting with them. It comes from their evaluations that they get from employers that they connect with. It comes from employment verification from those employers that they connect with. The validation's there, but that's how you get there. Okay. For example, let's say a resume. So we've created a resume builder because we want Gage to be the new resume. Like, we don't even want to use that word anymore, but we have to until then. So, like, sooner or later, it'll be the Gage page, and where's your Gage? You have a Gage? I need your Gage. That's what we want that language to be.
Right.
But for right now, it's like, the new resume. So you can put anything you want, just like a resume, but Gage is going to have a verification process for each one of those, points of data. So like employment verification is one of them. So you can put, you worked at McDonald's when you're 15 years old and now you're 28, but you're not going to be able to verify that.
Right.
So you can put it in there, but you're not going to be able to verify it. Now, your most recent job or your existing job, you can verify that, and then you'll get a verified check mark next to that.
Okay.
To give that more validation. Right.
Yeah.
So the whole idea is that whenever you look at somebody on Gage, you're going to be like, oh, that's how you are. Wow, you're hired. That's the goal.
Right. What's that meme? Nobody can prove you're a district manager at Toys R Us.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's kind of like again. I just go back to that example about how some industries won't even look at you if you don't have a LinkedIn profile.
That's true.
And because that could be the same. In the shift in hourly workforce in a positive way, because what that does is it just adds value to who you are. You're not just some guy off the street with a Word template as a resume that, with who knows whatever references, because I don't have time to check it. Nobody answers the phone anyway. And even if they did answer the phone, they can't legally, they can't tell you, what you do. There's all these restrictions. So I have no idea who you are.
Yeah.
And if I did, if I knew that you were a rock star and if I knew that you were awesome, I would pay you freaking here. I would pay you up here because I can see who you are.
Yeah. Wow.
But if I don't know, what do employers do? We hedge our bets. We say, I don't know who you are. I mean, it's going to take me time to learn who you are.
Yeah.
So I got to start you here. And that, in a sense, is the problem with the shift in hourly workforce, because whenever a person could work their tail off, work their butt off, and we see it every single day with people that serve us. They can work their tail off. They can get to the pinnacle of that particular job. And then they're tired, or they want to move on, or they want to move on to something better. And what do they have to do normally? They have to start over.
Yeah.
They got to get another job, and essentially it's like they're starting a new reputation, starting a new relationship, and it doesn't have to be that way.
And it's almost a demotion, because a lot of times they're going back to maybe an original pay rate.
Yes.
Because they have to start over again.
Yes. Or maybe they go across the street for a quarter an hour more, but they're still rebuilding these relations and who they, their reputation within that business.
Right.
One of the original metaphors we used to use with Gage was a filing cabinet. The problem with every managerial system within a business is that the data is always owned by the business.
Yeah.
It's never owned by the employee. It's the same as that filing cabinet over there, where if you get an evaluation, a promotion, you get great customer feedback, customer says they love you, all of that stuff goes into a manila folder and it sits in a filing cabinet collecting dust. And the employee doesn't get to take it with them.
That's exactly
It's
right.
true. I remember.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
before I started my career, with all my other little jobs, I would get nice customer feedback, stuff like that. And you're exactly right. I've never, once I leave there, I don't have it. It's, they probably shred it or do whatever.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, and certainly it's not yours.
Yeah.
And even at a higher level, if you're a VP or a director and you go switch to a different company, you're still not taking whatever records they have of you.
You can't.
They stay
because
there.
it doesn't. That's why one of the transferable employment record.
Yeah.
It's never been done before. Actually, it kind of has. The biggest reference that you can make is probably a military service record, or if you work with a government agency, there's usually a record of sorts. That the interesting thing about because I'm a military guy. You guys know that from the first episode, but I'm a Marine, and you have a service record. And the service record, what's interesting about it is it doesn't belong to your chain of command. It's not even owned by the government. The government doesn't own it. It's owned by you. It's your service record. My service record is in a security box right now. The interesting thing about it is that you can, whenever you go to a different chain of command, that chain of command can contribute to it. Mm-hmm. They can add to it. They can proficient in conduct marks, PFT training, the rifle scores, badges, medals, every deployment that you've ever been, time, which is a huge part of Gage, by the way. Time, how long are you in service? And that time adds value to who you are, increases your earning potential by your rank and your military grade. It goes basically, but all of that is fine, but it doesn't belong to your chain of command. It doesn't belong to your sergeant major or your colonel. It belongs to you. And it's proof of what you can bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's key because, I've been in manufacturing and processing for 30 years. And I've said this from the very beginning is the guys that work, and ladies, that work out on the floor, they're the biggest asset that company has. They're the ones that are making that product. They're the ones that are putting it together, putting it on a truck, shipping it out, installing it, whatever. That's the front line. They're the ones that are actually doing the work so that the people with names on their doors can get the accolades of doing so well.
It's 60% of the workforce.
Yeah, it's a huge piece, and they don't get a whole lot of recognition a lot of the times. And it's tough. It's one of the hardest things to do is to hire people.
Right.
And it's a lottery sometimes. And I'm not going to name businesses, but I know there's one business here in Brunswick that they'll bring in 10, 15 new people every week. And before that first day is over, half of them don't come back after lunch.
Yeah, I mean it's a standard. I've heard that before. Some companies will intentionally hire 200% more than what they need just to have a base group, after a few weeks, right?
Yeah.
And again, this is, I want to emphasize this point because there's something about Gage. I think one of the reasons Gage has not been done yet is, I don't know. The more I talk to people, investors, like that investor that was clueless the other day, I didn't mention their name, so I'm not going to get in trouble. But I think first off, I don't think they care. I genuinely don't think a lot of people care. I think that I've employed, and again, just going back to my background, we didn't cover it in this episode, but I've owned a lot of businesses, still do employ a lot of people. They are incredible people. And this is either a stage in their life or adding up to something else. But they are not machines. They're not equipment. They're people. And we don't treat them that way. We just say, "Hey, shut up and do your job," that's what we're thinking in our head. Like, your job is to serve me coffee. Just do it. And I don't like that. And I'm not comfortable with the status quo. And I'm here to change it with Gage, because I believe those people are the heroes of our quality of life.
Yeah.
Didn't we learn that in the pandemic when those people went away? We're like, oh, how I really miss it. It's like,
yeah.
Like, what do we, this is our entire world is possible because of these people.
And they're sometimes marginalized or just looked over. And like you said, just kind of treated as just get me my coffee.
Yeah.
Do you think Gage is a way of inspiring some of these people to work a little bit harder? Or,
absolutely. Because it's so obvious, the problem. The problem is that nothing matters in that segment of the workforce, meaning that they can work hard or not work hard at all, and there's no net difference. There's no, it's like clock in, clock out, go to sleep, repeat.
Yep.
And there's just nothing there. There's nothing tangible to hold on to. There's not a ladder you can climb. There's nothing there. That is the problem, and that is discouraging as hell. Yeah. Like I say that, and I was like, I don't want to do that.
I've heard, yeah.
But we need it, and it is a very important part of life. Most people start their careers in some sort of shift in hourly work or hospitality or whatever, and I don't think that should ever change. I think it is. I've always said that everybody should work in a restaurant at least once, because yeah. you really only then can you appreciate what it's like to be the other person that serves you.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't have to be that way, and because all you have to do is create a system where things matter.
Right.
That's our tagline: make work count. Because it doesn't count right now, and if you could just if you can make it matter, then to your point, you will inspire a whole new generation of workforce, because then it becomes almost in a positive way a game. It becomes like I want more points, I want more scores, I can make this much more money, and I can't even tell you half of the features that we're working on because we're not talking about them yet. But some of the features we're working on is like we literally. Gamify work in a way where people can literally grow in their quote unquote wage earning potential.
Yeah, it's a really great way. I see it as someone can really see the progress. I remember you talked about having like that attaboy or the pat on the back,
high five. Yeah. That most popular feature, by the way. Everybody loved it. We were right on that one.
Yeah, I mean that is worth its weight in gold, because. Yeah. I think, like I said, using my experience and working with some of these guys, and I'll tell you, I've worked with guys who learned their skill, learned how to weld or how to use a CNC machine while they're in San Quentin.
Right.
So these are the salt of the earth. What means more to them than a paycheck is the fact that they're seen and they're recognized. And you walk up and say, hey, how you doing? How's your wife doing?
Yeah.
And if you know that, I mean, they will lay down and die for you.
if you went on our YouTube channel right now or social media, but we did a series of interviews here recently with our customers and with employees that are using the prototype and loving it. Whether, some people love the prototype, some people just love the idea of what we're trying to do. But I think that we interviewed Chick-fil-A employees, for example. It always came down to recognition. That's what they're craving. And it makes sense to me because that is a very human feeling, to just want to be recognized and seen. Mm-hmm. And I use the example of kitchen equipment. When people are treated like equipment instead of people, that's when they look for the door and want to leave, and rightfully so. A piece of equipment only gets attention when something's broken.
Yeah.
And that's most of these people. Most of these people only get attention whenever they did something wrong. When you needed a talking to or, whatever, they never get attention for doing the right thing every day. And I think that can be done with our product. We can recognize and celebrate people for doing the right things every single day by creating this platform and this community.
I think that's the biggest thing that's about this app, is that having that recognition, because like you said, these people are almost anonymous. Mm-hmm. And so they just want to be seen and recognized, and going up and saying, hey, that was a great thing you did, or good catch on that. And it also kind of helps build that, what I think a lot of people are missing these days is that critical thinking.
Well, maybe that's part of, like, this day and age, this generation. All I can hear about is everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. I get those calls, like, I want to start a business and stuff like that, and I'm very supportive. I'm very, I try to help every which way I can, but I also am not one of the ones that say everybody needs to be an entrepreneur, because I actually, I spoke to a group the other day, and in that group was sponsored by a bank or something, and so there was a lot of bank executives out there, and there's a lot of young kids that want to be entrepreneurs. And I said, you really want to be, and there's a panel of us. There's a panel of entrepreneurs up there, and all of us looked, just rode hard and hung up wet. I mean, we're just, because you just got all these businesses, and I made a comment, and I was like, if you draw a salary right now, if you have a guaranteed salary every single week, raise your hand. And of course the bank execs, raise their hand. And I was like, look at them. Don't they look happy? I was like, there's not a single wrinkle or gray hair in all of them. I was like, they're just like happy as can be, living their best life, and they draw a salary, and I was like, look at me. I was like, you see these gray hairs, and I was like, I was like, and I'm getting sued right now because somebody slipped and followed my store, So it's just like I don't know if everybody is cut out to be an entrepreneur. But what I do know is I think that the reason that people are drawn to that the lifestyle of an entrepreneur is that they get attention, that they get appreciation. They're able to say, I did this, and they're able to, post it or do whatever. They just get the recognition for being a business owner. And I think that that's generally at the core of what somebody craves when they say they want to be an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. They just want it validated. They want their, which is all, we always say that, like a business owner, that we get to make our own schedule and all that stuff. We all know that's not true.
Right.
That just means we're always working.
Yeah.
That just means we're always working. Those bank execs got to clock in and clock out, when they're off, they're off. Right. But I genuinely believe that's that craving for entrepreneurship. It's just craving for attention and just wanting to be seen, which is not a bad thing.
No, I think that's a basic human need. Mm-hmm. I think, and when you're in working like a bank executive and you get your name on the door, these guys get more recognition than the tellers.
Yeah.
Out there. So I think it needs to be flipped around a little bit, and some of these managers need to go back for certain training, because this is not Suits or was it Mad Men or something like that anymore. Yeah. It's you've got to recognize these people that are putting in the work to put your product out there.
Yeah, it's funny because you mentioned banking. Banking loves us, and I never would have guessed that in a million years. We have a few banks as customers with the prototype, and And I never thought that, but I was like, everybody employs hourly workers. Even healthcare. Like I was on a podcast where the person's wife was in healthcare, and they used the product, and I just never imagined. But I was like, a hospital, you got to imagine, like, I mean, the vast majority of those workers and that make that hospital possible are hourly workers. Not talking about the surgeons and not talking about the executives, but everybody else that makes that place run.
Right, administrators, human resource,
janitors, like the nurses. Talk about unappreciated, unseen. So I think that Gage is a game changer because we're cracking into something that either somebody, it was like you couldn't see the forest for the trees. Either they didn't care, or they were. I don't know. I just believe that this was missed, and we're feeling it.
I agree. I think I said before, our first podcast, this is a wonderful product that's going to be out there, and I think help, as it grows and becomes a standard, I hope that it kind of reshapes how the workforce.
It would, right? If it was adopted, if it was universally accepted, if Gage became as ubiquitous as LinkedIn or any other system like this, it would change things drastically.
So let's say I'm an employer and I want to look at someone's Gage. Now, would it be almost like signing up own profile, like in LinkedIn, to look up someone's profile?
Very similar. You would have to give the employee control over what they share publicly, and we will do that. So, for example, your Gage score is not going to be shared unless the employee wants you to see it. There are certain evaluations, certain more specific details about their Gage profile would not be shared unless the employee wants to see it. That's imperative, right? I mean, you have to give them that ability to be able to market themselves the way that they want to be marketed. It's not going to be just a blanket see everything. That doesn't work. And another thing that hasn't been touched on, that just like LinkedIn, this is a completely voluntary system. You join LinkedIn because you want to become more valuable within the workplace or the workforce. The same will be said for Gage. It's not a voluntary. It's not a mandatory thing. Not everybody has to have a Gage. Not everybody. You're just going to be much more valuable to the workforce if you do.
Nice. Now, the community you want to build inside the app, you said it's going to be almost like a social media, TikTok.
Yeah. So right now we're building Gen 2. So we're focused on the community aspect of it. The community aspect is going to have a wall. Similar to, matter of fact, I'm in Candyland right now because I just saw the first prototypes of the product, so I'm just loving seeing this thing come to life. It's going to have a home screen, basically a wall that is very similar, where people can scroll, and the content is going to be very specific to workplaces, businesses that you follow, coworkers that you worked with, peers that you worked with, that you're connected with. And people that you want to follow. And then there's going to be a workspace section. So diving in, so that's more of a kind of a global Gage community, look. And then under the actual workspace is your individual job, like where you're currently working at and connected to. And it could be one job or it could be many, but that is where the activity within your workspace happens. Communication, messaging, DMs, group messaging, team messagings, bulletins, of course, the managerial tools like the evaluations, the high fives, the touch points, all of that happens within the workspace.
Nice.
And then there's going to be the profile, where all of that data basically just goes into your profile. That is a shareable profile that you get to send to future employers, peers, etc. Yeah.
Let's get into the development part, because you kind of touched on it a little bit. It gets exciting.
Yeah.
How do you keep focused to say, because everything probably looks great. You're like, oh, this is great. But how do you keep your focus to kind of really hone that to
It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I've got a list a mile long of things I want to do with this product, but it's you have to you have to set certain KPIs. What are your goals? And investors, which they want their goals, and it's not their investors' goals are not always revenue. They could be any number of KPIs, key performance indicators. It could be users, it could be engagement, it could be the organic nature of Gage. That's one of the exciting things about what we proved with the prototype was that this grew organically, so it didn't require a sales force. Like social media, it grew organically, which is very exciting to investors. But you have to focus. So whatever your KPIs are, you have to decide what they are, and this is what we need. From the prototype, we identified those 4 things that we needed. I hate that it's not clean in 3, but there's 4 things that we needed to focus on: onboarding, messaging, profile, and community. Those are the 4 things that we're focused on with Gen 2. And if we nail that, then we will have hopefully a very solid, scalable, which is the key word, product. And then really the trick is onboarding the wait list that we have, which is substantial, and then the new partnerships that we have that are either done or in the works. And then that they become our distribution partner in the beginning, and then hopefully with organic growth and maybe a touch of marketing, we'll be able to scale this.
Is it functional across all industries, or is this a little bit industry specific?
That's another challenge as a founder. The another phrase in tech is you shouldn't try to boil the ocean. So you can't be everything to everybody. If you try to be, you'll be nothing to no one. And I think that so you have to identify an ICP, an ideal customer profile. It is not industry specific, to your point. Like right now, I mean, we're in industries that I never thought, banking, like I was talking about, like I didn't think that was going to be a target, healthcare. I didn't think that was, but I did know that anybody, if this worked the way that I envisioned it, any industry would want it. And it might not be the end all, like even if it's a tool in the toolbox, and a damn good one, but it might not be the only tool. Like if you want to become a surgeon, you want to get a job as a surgeon in a hospital. I don't pretend that one day all they need is a Gage. I think that Gage will be a one tool of many things that they will check. Just similar to LinkedIn. So I do think that industries, it's across the board. It really is across the board. Right now, when it comes to our ICP or targeting the business accounts that want to use Gage, our ICP is multi-unit operators within the franchise space.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't have to be restaurants. So, Stretch Zone is one of the ones that use this and love this. That's a franchise that multiple units, sometimes owners own multiple units. That would be our quote unquote ICP. And it's actually more than 25 employees per unit. I believe when the employees get a hold of the community, this will go any which way, but it'll go all over the place. But when it comes to like just targeting a business to sell to, it's multi-unit franchise operators, 25 employees or more per unit.
Okay.
And that's very specific. So I can tell investors, I'm not trying to boil the ocean. That's and then they go, what industry? I was like, oh,
that was my
just
next
all
question.
of them,
Yeah.
all of them. So yeah, it really, because, another thing we learned with the prototype is that a small mom and pop coffee shop that has 5 employees, and we might be thinking about the ones I'm talking about. I adore them. I love them. But if you have 5 employees, you're literally right next to each other. Why am I going to go in an app and give you praise where you're right there? So the more employees you have, the easier it is to adopt in the beginning, and the more likely you are to use the product. But again, this is all based off of the prototype, not Gen 2. Gen 2 will have the community, the social media element to it. in that language. So I think everything's possible right now.
Yeah. And you did mention you are getting feedback from actual users to see this is what we like, this is what we don't
Yeah, that's
like.
where it's all coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's we did exhaustive just interviews, discovery process with our users. What did you like? What did you not like? I'll use the example of the nudge. The nudge was the only quote unquote negative or punitive thing in the system. And there was a big part of me that wanted to just remove it altogether because I wanted Gage, and I wanted Gage to be a positive place. Matter of fact, in our company and within the team, we always say this before any workshop. The only negative is the absence of a positive with Gage. So someone doesn't have to have strikes against them or whatever. All they have to have is a bunch of positive, validating metrics, and then they become happier and better and more valuable to quote unquote. And I get in trouble when I say that. Just your wage earning potential becomes more. So I'm very adamant. But to the point about the nudge, we thought about removing it, and we had customers like, no, don't remove it. I was like, yeah, but like you send like 100 high fives for every one nudge. So engagement, you're just not using it.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, but that one nudge is very important.
Yeah.
Like and it was kind of fascinating because I always kind of envisioned the nudge being like just more of a casual and like, hey, just don't do that again. Like, bro, it's not cool.
Right.
Like your uniform's wrinkled. Can we not do that? You showed up late today. Can we not do that? I always thought of it like that. And that's how I used it. Some of the businesses felt like it was like a big deal. And so they felt like it was like, actually we do in person, we talk to them, we do a written correspondence, and then the nudge is the last thing we do before they're fired. And it was like, and I was like, I did not imagine that in a million years. And that's just how they use it. I guess, at the end of the day, the customer's always going to tell you what they want and what they need. You just got to listen. And so, they're using it, but it's not, I had an employee tell me once that they didn't mind the nudge because the nudge let them know that at least their employer was, watching and caring, that they like, I want to do better. They viewed it as constructive criticism because we all can't bat 1,000, right?
Right. That's true.
Right. I always thought of it as like, hey, you've got something that's due for us in in a couple of days. Are you done? Or,
Yeah.
That's kind of nudging. I get.
Yeah. Like a nut. Yeah, that's how I use it on a daily basis, and I think that particular feature will evolve over time. I mean, you mentioned like a task. We have a task feature coming out. If you assign a task to somebody and it gets done, stuff like that. But it is just interesting just to watch the discovery process with real users. There's a quote, and I'm going to butcher it, so I'm not even going to say it, but it basically goes like, if you've launched if you're not embarrassed by the first offering of your product, you launched too late. Meaning that you spent way too much time, way too many resources, way more money than you should have. You should have launched it earlier and gotten into the hands of users so they can tell you what you need to be. And I appreciate that. And I don't know if embarrassed is the right word, but I definitely felt like the prototype had its shortcomings. And so we learned from it.
Yeah. You got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's a demo, at least you start somewhere and built on it.
Yeah, what the hell? I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I'm a restaurant guy. And I find myself in tech by accident because I just thought I had an idea that I knew I believed in with, everything in my being, and I'm just seeing it through.
Yeah. I mean, you saw it from the ground floor. You were...
I mean, it was originally it was a spreadsheet of my businesses. Like we literally designed a spreadsheet that we used within my employees, and again for reference, if you guys don't know, like I own, I guess at the peak of my that path, I owned like 14 restaurants and businesses, and employed hundreds, if not thousands, of employees. So, but we built a spreadsheet, and with the kind of the key components, the scoring components and stuff like that within the businesses, and then everybody started loving it and liking it and wanting to keep it. And I was like, man, I should make this a thing, And that's really where, product kind of took off from there.
Nice. So let's say I'm a waiter, right, at one of the restaurants. I'm using Gage, and I'm an excellent server. Customers love me, and let's say customers leave reviews. Will those reviews be able to be uploaded into Gage? Will
You're stealing my thunder there. That's one of the features we're talking about. Yeah, we do have an idea. I don't think that I'm going to get in too much trouble by saying this, but yeah, the idea is that that is very interesting, right? What if you were able to? What if customers were able to contribute to your Gage?
Right.
In a positive way only. I
Right.
do not like the review system. I'm going to say that outright.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Everybody thinks of Gage. They think of a review system like Yelp or stars and 5 stars and all that kind of stuff. I do not like that at all. I think that it opens up, it basically exposes you to the worst part of humanity, because
Yes.
people that leave reviews are either emotionally drawn one way or the other. They have a great experience, 5 stars, fine. But then they have a really bad experience and they think that you're just the worst thing. And you really can't hurt people with a bad review. And it's just like an emotional thing. I do think, like I said, what we said with our team, the only negative in Gage will be the absence of a positive. And so I believe I see a world where a customer can give, it might be called shout outs to an employee. So somebody, looks at a Gage profile and is like, wow, this person's got like 32 shout outs from customers. Not a 4.3 star
Right,
rating,
yeah.
not a 2.1, not like nothing hard. Like, oh, they got 32. And then you see somebody else, they got 3. Okay, well, they got 3, that's fine. But the person that's got like 40,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the only negative is the absence of a positive, and that may be coming.
Okay. Yeah, and I agree with you, because you got people that just want to review bomb just to review bomb.
And then you open yourself up to just obviously the worst people of the internet.
Right,
And, it is, and unfortunately you do serious harm, because as a business owner, I've seen the bad side of that. Somebody could have had a cold that day, or a power outage, something that wasn't even our, like we've gotten bad reviews from power outages before. And it's like, really?
Yeah.
like really?
I read reviews, and and like you, I owned 3 Italian restaurants for a while.
Yeah.
And just, I think it was just last week, and I was kind of going through, and I saw someone just absolutely destroying this local restaurant.
Yeah.
And like, this is just not called for. And the owner was actually replying back saying, and come talk to me.
Let's make it right.
Let's make it right. And it compelled me to say something, because it's just like, listen, you can't just come out here and just bash someone without even having a conversation with that owner.
Yeah.
This is bad form. If you have a problem, talk to someone about it first. Just don't make your first instinct to go online and say all these horrible things, because what it does is it brings out all the looky-loos.
It's awful.
Then people just want to pile on, and that's not the way to.
I'm very adamant about keeping Gage a safe, non-toxic, positive place. And good thing is that as much as we've learned from the Yelps and the Facebooks and the Google's reviews and so, as much as we've learned enough to know what not to do.
Yeah.
And I think that when you do something as powerful as Gage, you need to be careful, because we will always keep the employee, and we will always protect them to the best of our ability.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, but to your point, being able to get real feedback, because right now, and if a customer goes into a restaurant and they have a great experience, and I hate that we keep using restaurants, like we said, we're all over industries, but we use the most relative. We all go to restaurants every day. So you go to a restaurant, you have a great experience. Chances are you had a great experience because of the person that served you. Mm-hmm. And the best thing you could do is leave them a good tip, which I hope you do. But you go on Yelp or Google and you leave a review for the business. And maybe you get the person's name, maybe you can review them, or you mention their name, but that review is not for them.
Yeah,
you didn't review Danielle. You reviewed that business. You know what I mean?
I do. Yeah.
And so, like, what if we could create a system with Gage where somebody can give feedback to that person that served you and say, she did an awesome job.
Yeah.
And she's the reason we had a great time today. And how would that be received? Not only from, what did I say, Danielle? I don't know where that name came from, but that person, not only was that person, did that person receive it, what would it mean to her?
Yeah.
And then what would it mean to a future employer when they saw that about her?
Yeah.
Right.
It'll mean a lot.
Yeah.
Is that something that, because now, I mean, a lot of the restaurants are using, the handheld devices for payment and stuff. Could that be something that could be on that as they're paying?
Could be.
You
Could
know,
be a QR code at the table. It could be,
Yep.
it could be any number of things. It could be just a tap, like, have a wrist thing, just tap your phone on it, or maybe even a location center. Like, there's 4 Gage employees in this place of business. Pick one. And it's like, oh, it's that one. Yeah, there you go. Right. There's any number of ways to do it. I think that I think it would be powerful. I think it would be a powerful tool. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's such a tough industry, the restaurant business.
Yeah.
So to get recognition like that, I always make sure that 'cause I feel their pain, and when I have really, really good service, I tell them,
Yeah.
like, you were great tonight. You're spot on. Everything's good. You're great. We really enjoyed coming here because of you.
Exactly. I mean, that's, and I hope that most people understand that. And that's why I always say that everybody should work in the restaurant industry so they can respect that. Especially when not everybody can own a restaurant like us, but yeah, I mean, to be able to give that person that validation means everything in the world to them. They seem seen. They seem they feel appreciated, and they go home happier because you just gave them a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they could have had a bad day and you just made their day.
And we've even seen it where we've gone to a restaurant as regulars, and we didn't get the server that we normally get. And we've seen this twice where that server would go over to the server that's working our table and tell them, treat them good. They're really good tippers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like they recognize the customer as someone who appreciates what they're doing as well.
Yeah.
So that it kind of goes both ways. But God, these hourly workers, whether it's restaurant or you're in manufacturing or whatever it is,
Grocery stores, the people that stock our freaking
Yeah.
shelves, the
Yeah.
people that feed us, whether it's in a restaurant or at the stores, it's just across the board. It's these people that serve us every single day that make this life possible. It's time for them to be recognized.
Yes.
They're the most underserved, especially in tech, but they're the most underserved portion of our economy, and like I said, they're the vast majority of our economy.
yeah, it'll be better than kind of going online and filling out those applications and like give me 3 references.
Yeah, never fill out another resume or application again in the very near future if Gage is successful.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling we will be. The Techstars was a game changer for us. Like I said, we got much more investor interest than we ever possibly imagined. It was validating, and of course, the best experience that I got from Techstars was that it made me better as a founder. As I said, I don't do this. I'm not a tech guy. I think that's what investors appreciate most about me is that I'm not a guy in a cubicle in Silicon Valley. I'm literally an employer and on the ground. Like, I'm eating my own dog food, right? I built the thing within my restaurants. And they love that about me, but I'm not tech. And I know that I needed a very big education very quickly. And nothing was better for that than Techstars.
So what did they offer you? Like, what did you learn? What did you come away with?
Oh goodness. Where do I begin? The mentorship program is very intense. They call it Mentor Madness. They basically set you up with, they literally tailor specific mentors, and these mentors are everything from just wildly successful people one way or the other, whether they're founders or whether they're engineers or people within tech space. They could be marketing, whatever. But they tailor these mentors to you based on your needs at the time and your product. You know, what do you do? If you have a product in healthcare, then let's pair you up with a healthcare badass, you know.
Right.
And that is just absolutely insanity, because you get, I think, what do we get? Like, we got 12 mentors, but you get in interviews with like 60 of them, you know, like it's like bam, 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 bam. It's like, and then you rate them, and there's just this process. But all of these connections are connections that are incredibly valuable. Even the ones that don't even get made as your mentor, you keep connections with them. So there's just a network of just really incredible, smarter than I'll ever be, people that you just get to network with and get feedback from and advice from. And then, of course, just the basics of, you know, the program. The program has a curriculum. Learning financial modeling, learning marketing, learning your go-to-market strategy, learning what an ICP is, identifying that ICP. I spat it out like it was memory because of Techstars. You know, communicating, you know, being able to give an elevator pitch. You know, it's very easy to tell people what you do in an hour. It's very hard to do it in 15 seconds. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they nail that down, you know. I had the cohorts, you know, there was 12 of us in the program, 12 founders. I was one of the only sole founders. Most people have co-founders, and I'm the only idiot in there that is by myself. And it was a very intense program, guys. I'm just a grunt, right? I'm a Marine. I've never claimed to be very smart. I'm just incredibly tenacious and just very persistent. But it was an intense program. It was hard, and I was the only one. Well, no, it was me and Matt. There was one other sole founder, and me and him kind of bonded on that. Like, it's like, this is intense on your own, right? Across the board, it basically made me sharper, better, faster, I dare say smarter, or at least more knowledgeable of what it is I'm trying to pursue here, which is astronomically difficult and the most difficult thing I've ever done. It makes opening restaurants look like a walk in the park. I promise you. Yeah. Yeah.
Because let's talk tech side. I mean, you have to have programmers, right? So you have to find programmers to program the app,
you're
website.
Right. So I would be what's called a non-technical founder. So anybody that doesn't know code or can't program, can't develop on that side, then that's me. I'm a non-technical founder. Most non-technical founders have a technical co-founder to help them in the beginning, and I didn't. But I do have something very close. I have a very good team. I have a CPO. His name is Jeff. I met him, Chief Product Officer, CPO, sorry. And I met him, probably about 2 years ago now, when we were in the early stages of this. Jeff has over like 25 years of incredible B2B and B2C SaaS experience, developing products for hospitality industries. He was with OpenTable for a while. He was with a bunch of big companies, and he's an incredible CPO. And I can't believe he's my CPO, because he's just got that type of experience. But he found out what Gage was trying to do, and he just drank the Kool-Aid. I mean, he was like, "This is the thing. This is what it is." Yeah. And then he brought his head of design, who's been with him for years, Turner. And then, of course, we have Antonia, and it was Darwin and Sarah in the beginning. But so we just built an incredible team. But Jeff kind of helps me with the technical side, even though he is still not an engineer. He's not. So we right now we have brought on a nearshore dev shop called Arakari to help us with the Gen 2 build. So yeah, you're right. I'm not a technical founder, but what you do is you surround yourself with people that are, and you try to do the best you can without knowing the very, the basic architecture of, being able to develop a product like this. But I will tell you, I've never been more proud of a team that, I've built plenty of teams, but this team is incredible.
Nice.
Yeah. That's
awesome. Now, is your product already copyrighted? Or are you worried about anyone stealing your idea?
Yeah. That's always, it's kind of, if you want to do something, you just got to do it and figure it out. If someone wants to try to rip you off, I always think that first off, the big boys, I don't believe the big boys would touch this because the big boys don't do this. You don't go from if LinkedIn, for example, you don't go from being a whatever $1 billion company and say, oh, this is working really well, let's try this. That's just not really that. Now they were acquirer, they would acquire us,
right?
Which we're welcome to have those conversations in the near future. But I that's not just how it happens. I think the biggest threat is maybe companies that are either at our level or maybe even a bit beyond, but in a product that's not working and they need to pivot. Right. And they see what we're doing. And I could see that being a vulnerability. And as far as IP protection and stuff that we've done, we've filed a couple patents on the business method of the score. A few other elements of the application are we're either considering filing or already have filed some patents. But I genuinely believe the strength and the moat, the competitive moat, which is what people say, what's your protection? I genuinely believe it's our team.
Nice.
You're not going to find a team like ours. You have me, who has literally employed thousands of shift and hourly workers. I've been on both sides of the coin. And then you have our team that is so knee-deep in hospitality SaaS, it's ridiculous. And we're so far ahead of anybody that would want to come along, from discovery to customer discovery to features. And of course, we're nearly just a few months away from launching the game changer. So I think we're good. But it's always possible. And so we'll just be first and we'll be bigger and better.
Was it one step ahead of the game?
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about launch. App, website.
The product. The product is both mobile and desktop. I mean, so it's mobile and web. There's different components. The interface, how you interact with it every single day, is obviously mobile. We have a portal that's going to be offered to the business administrators, the ones that pay for the account.
Right.
So we spent this entire podcast talking about how we're LinkedIn for the next generation. All true, but the one thing you need to lead or follow with that, especially when talking to investors, is that, but we have revenue.
Yeah. Because
LinkedIn didn't have revenue for a very long time. And so when you say you want to be the next LinkedIn, you actually scare a lot of investors away. Because while they're really awesome now, it was not always that case. And it took them a long time to be able to monetize. We have revenue now. And because we're a specific utility to the business owners have a significant advantage, there's a true value to what we offer. We offer increased retention. We have customers that have experienced a 50% increase in retention. I'll remind you that the whole score in the system is based off of job tenure. Part of it is based off of job tenure. So the longer anybody stays with their job, the higher their score. So we literally gamify and incentivize people staying with their job longer. So retention goes up, which means turnover cost goes down, massive savings. And of course, just improved performance, accountability, and culture all around. So we do add great value to the business. They get a monetary return almost immediately just from retention alone.
Yeah.
So they're able to pay a subscription to participate in the managerial features of Gage. That wasn't a thing with LinkedIn. So if we can continue that train, I think we're in a very good position, because you don't want to, as much as somebody wants to create a product that doesn't make money for 10 or 12 years, it's a lot harder to do than people make it seem to be. Because you want to point to the Ubers and the DoorDashes and the big products that they were business for 10 years before they made a dime in profit. But you just it's really difficult to do that. And if you can prove profit, and if you certainly can prove a pathway to cash flow, positive cash flow, then you're really good.
Wow,
you're definitely ahead of the game. when it comes to that.
Yep, yeah, and I don't mean to. I hope I'm not coming across cocky by any stretch, but because we have a long way to go. But I will tell you that the prototype, as basic as it was, hit a lot of metrics that we're very excited about.
Right.
And so if we can replicate that, albeit improve upon it with this next one that is scalable, which the other one wasn't, then we should be good.
It's exciting times.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
Especially
I said,
for the workforce.
We have a long way to go, so
Yeah.
knock on wood. I don't mean to
Yeah.
come across like I got it all figured out, because I don't. But
Well, it's a good thing for the workforce.
yeah,
So,
I think so. I really think so. And I've seen it work. I mean, I've seen people get jobs, get promotions. I've seen people get paid more. I've seen employers say that they would pay more for somebody in Gage than they would with somebody without Gage. And it just makes it. It's one of those ideas that just like, why isn't this a thing?
yeah.
Yep.
And good news is it will be.
Nice. Any ETA or just
Right now I'm saying Q3. We have some very strategic partnerships that are very, very excited that we get this done this year. Q3 is a pretty solid benchmark right now.
Okay.
Great.
But I will tell you that you think delays happen in restaurants and construction. You just wait till you get into tech. So I'm sure I'm going to get in trouble. Jeff's probably yelling at me right now if he's listening to this. But I think I'm confident at saying that, because I believe in my team, and they're doing great things. Like I said, I just got to play around with the prototype, so I'm excited.
I can't wait to actually see
Yeah,
it.
love to see the scalable. You mentioned scalable. Is it scalable in terms of the number of employees?
Yes, across the board, number of businesses, number of employees, the speed of which all of them get to onboard. That's the biggest one.
Yeah.
So like in the beginning with the prototype, or many SaaS products, by the way. So like if you have like a B2B SaaS product, like a payroll company or a inventory system, whatever, there's usually an onboarding process that's very expensive. That takes weeks, even longer. CSV file. I got to go to my HR department to get the CSV file. I got to check with the legal team to make sure that I can send that information. It's just a laborious exercise that is not needed. So, in the beginning I think we got up to like 60 business accounts, and we had well over 200. We have way north of that now on the wait list. But we were only able to get to that amount, not just because of the product being a prototype, but it was the onboarding process was too long. It was just so why do that? I mean, this is social media. Let's make it social media. Everybody onboards, and all they got to do is connect to each other like a friend request.
Right.
And that's what we did. And I think that was scalable in a sense that it would not take a massive either sales force or customer support force to onboard so many companies all at once. Everybody should be able to take this thing and run with it from the moment we launch.
Yeah, I mean, onboarding is, and I can speak from experience, it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah. I mean, a training. I mean, again, to have a product that needs, I'm a business owner, so I get hit by B2B products all the time, and I just won't do it. I don't care how much you think you're going to help me. I got to take a 2-week course, watch 20 YouTube videos to learn how to use this thing, and I'm just not going to do it. So you create a product that's in a language that everybody's familiar with, which is social media, and you create a onboarding process that is seamless like social media, and then you can circumvent all of that.
Exactly. That's just a genius way to do it. Kind of put it back on the people to sign up themselves. And
yeah, we took a huge page of the Slack playbook. Slack is an interesting story, and I'm sure we're at time here soon, but Slack is a messaging app. I use it in my businesses. Originally, I didn't like Slack. I don't know if y'all have had any experience with it. It's a messaging app. It's a very very good one. And what I always found interesting about them is that I'm a business owner, and I originally I didn't like Slack at all. I was like, if you need me, message me. I was like, we have text messaging, we have email, we have all these other, why am I paying for this?
Right.
So I was like, I'm not going to sign up for Slack. I'm not going to sign up for Slack. And I just kept saying that. It's like, I'm not going to sign up for Slack. But my employees just kept asking for it. They're like, well, we're using it. I was like, it's really good. I was like, it would be nice for the business to use. I was like, fine. I was like, okay, it's whatever a month. I was like, my employees are happier. They're more productive. They love the product. And so I started paying for it. So there was literally a period of time where I simultaneously hated Slack and paying for it in 4 or 5 different accounts and companies.
Yeah.
Employer.
Yeah.
Writes the checks. Hate the product. Still paying for it. Not even using it.
Yeah.
Because my employees wanted it. That was a huge, I was like, I see what you did there, Slack.
Yeah.
And then you dig a little bit deeper and you realize that they're a $22 billion company and they've never even had a sales force. What they did was they did successfully a B2C to B play. So they went through the end user, the ones that get it for free. They get them hooked on the product, and then the business eventually has to go along for the ride and pay for it.
Yeah.
And while I believe that we serve a much more significant utility to a business than Slack does, and I think that a business owner is going to like our product a little bit better, it's the same play. The employees, I believe, will drive this product.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure I'm trying to remember from the last conversation we had. So a company signs up for Gage, okay, and then I get employed by the company, so they will offer me if I want to sign up for Gage, or now with this new 2.0, can I just as an employee just sign up for Gage?
Yeah, the mission is to make sure that you can both people can sign up whenever they want. So it's because it's a community, both employees or employers can sign up. They can create their own profile. They can create their own community, and then they just connect. Right?
Okay.
The subscription comes in from managerial features from the business side. But before that kicks in, people should be able to create their own profiles and their own personas within the app easily, quickly, without any subscription. Just like social media would probably need, phone number, email, some basic information. And then you can build out your profile and then start connecting within that community.
Okay. And then you can connect with your
place of business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, again, going back to the Slack model, that's, basically that's how it works. Like you create a workspace that you communicate within, and you send different. And Slack is great because you can create multiple different channels that you can call them different things. You can title them different things. And I didn't finish that story, but now I love Slack. I don't think I could tie my shoes without Slack. So in my business, use them. I love it, and I've gotten used to it. But like I said in the beginning, I didn't like it. But it's very similar where you can create workspaces, communicate. But again, for the business to participate in it, create a quote unquote business account, they have to participate by a subscription. And that's very much our initial revenue source.
Yeah.
Of course, we'll have several other revenue streams, but that will be the first one and the most significant one, hopefully.
Yeah. All right. We are coming up on time, so I know we asked this the last time, but we're going to ask it again. Because things have come out. What would you like to see in the Golden Isles, Glenn County?
This is a local podcast. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. I probably said the same thing I said last time. Well, I will say that so my family were huge fans of downtown Brunswick. I'm there all the time. We just went to that new Indian place, Bollywood.
Bollywood, yeah.
Yep.
Thought it was great. Thought it was fantastic. Even my daughters are 9 and 6, and we've always kind of taught them to be kind of good eaters, to try new things. Take a no thank you bite is what we call it. There was a lot of no thank you bites in the Indian restaurant, but me and my wife loved it. So I thought that was good. And I think that was probably one of the things I said, just different, places to eat, different things to do. I don't know. Downtown Brunswick, I just believe needs more housing for it to be what I believe it can be.
Yeah.
I think it needs family housing, just middle income, basic housing, neighborhoods, housing. I think that if you develop that out more, because I know that there's housing and there's these old, beautiful, plantation style homes and more power. I love that. If you want to build that and invest in that and put the money into, fixing up, great. But I think that a developer going in there and building out some really just, basic starter homes, for families, I think that would be a game changer for downtown Brunswick, because that way businesses could make money on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and not just every,
Yes, Friday night, Saturday night.
Friday, Saturday, First Fridays,
Yeah.
festivals, big events, stuff like that. I mean, and I think when you go downtown and you just see kind of like Tuesday and Wednesday, I can always just use that reference. Like,
Yeah.
I think that in order for that to really come around, where businesses can really thrive, you're going to need more housing. So from just a lover of downtown Brunswick and a belief that it could be so much more, I would want that for downtown Brunswick.
Yeah. I think there is, I don't know if it's an apartment development on the corner.
There's a lot of, there's movement. There's a lot of, I believe that other people know this to be true too, and so that there's movement in there. But so I would like to see that happen and more of it. Yeah. And then whenever you do, then you're going to, I think what you're going to see is more infrastructure too, which would help, maybe a grocery store that's closer than the closest Winn-Dixie, maybe, just more day in and day out life stuff, maybe a dry cleaner or a laundromat or, just more just life, right. Businesses and not just restaurants and quote unquote bars, but I believe that it will require housing, and the great thing is that it's so beautiful down there. I believe that people would live there and buy it up like crazy.
Oh, I'm regretting where I bought now, because I'm like, if I knew, because I moved here, my wife's gonna be mad because I get my dates wrong. I moved here 2012 when the prices of houses were still at the 2008 recovery level. And, we could have got a home on Union Street, one of those beautiful homes on Union Street, for probably a steal.
Right.
And now they're going for like 600, 700. So now I'm like regretting not getting in on there at that level.
And I will tell you, shout out to all of the entrepreneurs and the major players that are making moves down there. Because they're the ones that really did knuckle down and invested early. Because in business, early is the same thing as being wrong. Yeah. And so you might be onto something. The Brunswick would become something extraordinary, but the question is when. And if you make an investment too early, then you really could lose, a great deal. And so those entrepreneurs, those business owners, that have invested so much in downtown Brunswick, I think that they don't get enough credit.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you would be experiencing what you're experiencing now without them.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. The growth has been amazing.
Yes. And I think it's those big players that I don't want to mention one to leave out others. So all of them, you know who I'm talking about. All of you deserve a huge round of applause for what you've done, because and it's always messy. You got this, that person was mean and didn't do this thing and didn't renew this lease, and and then you get like little factions like, I'm not cool with that person and stuff like that. That's just I guess run of mill stuff. But
right.
But all of them deserve all of the credit in the world. The business owners, the restaurant owners, the property owners, everybody that's developed down there. They really did take swing at the fences. And like I said, if that comes to pass, more housing and more groups like that want to invest, I think it's going to be great.
Yeah. And shout out to the DBA. I mean, the work that they do to promote downtown. I mean, this first Friday, I don't know if you were down there or not, but
I missed this one.
it was a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot.
And I've heard that they've tried to, they're going to have to start, God forbid the R word, like regulate it, or, but I think they are going to have to crack down on some aspects of it just from a safety issue, right? I mean, it really is getting extraordinary. But they'll figure that out.
Yeah.
But it is really incredible to see what it's done. That makes sense that it was so crowded because it was spring break.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure we were out of town. So.
Well, I mean, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being on here. Talking about 2.0.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Can't wait for the workforce to see it and take off.
Yeah.
And hopefully see you on the stock market there.
Yeah. Hopefully one day. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Again, this is such a great product. Working in an industry where we have a lot of these frontline workers, it'd be such a great thing to have. So we're looking forward for it coming out. And
yeah. Well, the great news about this one is everybody can join wherever you want. Just be part of the community.
Nice.
Yeah. Use it, don't use it. You could still be a part of the community by signing up.
Awesome. I'll definitely check it out. Well, once again, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And look for Gage 2.0 coming out soon in third quarter. It's going to be a great product for your employees if you have employees, or just sign up and get the ball rolling.
You could sign up on our wait list, gagework.com. That's GAGE work.com.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.